So y'all, let's get into this last story that we're going to talk about. And we're going to spend some time on it because I don't know if folks, if you were under a rock, maybe you didn't hear this, but the Supreme Court of the United States struck down Roe v. Wade.
So, real quick, did we think that when they leaked the news that they were going to do this, that they were going to change their minds?
Oh, heck no.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Just want to make sure.
I
No.
kind of felt like there was a very, very slim chance that the public pressure what slim. I was being overly optimistic.
Okay, all
Clearly,
right, all right.
you know, part of me felt like it was a done deal, but I felt like with the swift, backlash
Mm-hmm.
that came, when the document leaked, that but then but that's the problem with, no term limits in the Supreme Court. Like they're not worried about their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
They're not worried about
Mm-hmm.
reelection. They're not worried
Mm-hmm.
about
Nope.
being reappointed, so they
Mm-hmm.
can do whatever they want. That's
Right.
the problem here.
So the so here's what I think about that leak. I think the leak was absolutely intentional because I believe that the plan was let's make sure that Washington D.C. doesn't burn down when this thing comes out in the summer. So I think that that's what it was. It was like, okay, well, it can change. So I mean, people were up in arms and they were marching, they were protesting and doing all the things they should do, but they weren't burning buildings down. And I think the thought was, if we just come out and do this and nobody had any advance warning,
That
it
it
will be
would
something
blow up.
different.
Yeah,
So
that's a
I
good point.
think, so I think that it was leaked on purpose. I don't think you're ever going to find out who did it, or it's going to be a scapegoat who did it. But I think it was absolutely intentional that it did. That is not, I don't have any inside knowledge that tells me that. I've just been living here for 50 years. And
Hmm.
I think that that's how our government tends to operate.
Yeah,
So that's just, kind of what I think.
that makes sense though.
But anyway, because this 50-year right has been taken away from women, you got to be prepared for doing things. I'm not preaching. I'm not telling anyone to go do anything or not to do anything. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that if you do decide to do something, or if you even decide to research something, you need to be careful
That's
because
right.
some of these laws, they went into effect as soon as the ruling came out. There are multiple
They
states
were
to
trigger
where
laws.
they were trigger laws. So as soon as
Hmm.
it happened, there are Planned Parenthoods or organizations such as that literally have to cease operations as far as doing abortions are concerned. So,
Real
you
quick,
know,
I'm gonna dip out real quick. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. I'll be
okay,
right back.
okay.
Handle your business.
So one of the things that that you are seeing written into some of these laws, they are coming after not just the women having the abortions, not just the doctors or the
Mhm.
nurses who are assisting in the abortions. They're coming after, did you give me
Anybody
a ride to the clinic to get
aiding
an
and
abortion?
abetting. Hmm.
They're coming after everyone
That's right.
in some of these states.
That's
And
right.
people are saying, "Oh, well, they're not." It always interests me when people will say things like, "Oh, well, they're not going to do that." It's like, well, they wrote it into law so that they can.
Right.
So don't assume. It's like, who's a Maya Angelou, said this best. When somebody tells you who they are, believe them the first time. There's no reason for you to be sitting there thinking, oh, well, they're not going to do this when they just
They would
passed
never
a
take it
law.
that far.
Yeah.
They
So
already planned to take it this far. They've had this in the
right.
works for years. All they were waiting to do was to get enough enough justices on the Supreme Court to do it, and then the states could pull the trigger. This has been a plan, and it sucks because it really does feel like the Republicans were playing chess while the Democrats were playing checkers on this
Always feels
particular
like that. Yeah.
issue, because they played the long game. They've been fighting this for a long time.
50 years. I mean, this
Yeah, yeah.
Roe was, I think that was 73, right? So we're talking about 49 years and some months since this thing
Mhm.
is,
Yeah.
it's literally childbearing women, women of childbearing age, all have lived under this. It's like, I don't think there's too many 50, 60, 70-year-olds who are having children at this time. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm just saying that's probably not the average. I'm going to go and guess that the average women is the average of what it's always been. Generally between 12 and 40.
Right.
Generally without assistance in having children, maybe 45. So so what is the tech angle of this?
Yeah.
You've got to be careful for what you do. We already have cases where people searched for contraceptives or they searched for morning after pills. They have to go to the hospital because they were having a miscarriage, and that has been used to actually go back and prosecute people, where they were found guilty and sent to prison.
And
This
sent
has
to
already
prison.
happened.
Absolutely.
So the fact that this has already happened before Roe fell, we know that this is going to happen now. So you just need to, protect yourself. There are things that you need to do. You don't want to just be on your computer at the house or on your phone searching for this kind of stuff. You need to be behind a firewall. You need to be
Yeah.
behind a
So
VPN. There's
let's
things that
let's
you need to
talk
do.
about some specific things. I
Mhm.
think a VPN or something like DuckDuckGo, a browser like DuckDuckGo, or some browser that has enhanced privacy is definitely where you start if you plan to be Googling any of this stuff. Do it through a browser that has enhanced security. Brave, Firefox, DuckDuckGo are on mobile, easy to use. But again, a VPN would be even more private. If you're calling anybody, get a Google Voice number, or there are some other apps called Hushed and Burner, but those do have a cost that will generate a temporary phone number. So it'll look like it's coming from a particular phone number, not your number, but Google Voice, Hushed, or Burner. And I'm getting all of this from the Electronic Frontier Foundation's webpage. They are fighting for privacy rights and justice. It's not a pro-choice, pro-life thing. It's just, this is a privacy thing, because
Mhm.
the amount of data that is already being collected, because in addition to your point, Rob, that 2 people have already been prosecuted and jailed for somebody thinking they were looking for abortion services or something like that. It has also already been shown that any person at all can go to the private market and purchase data, geofence data,
Mhm.
that shows where somebody was, if they were near an abortion clinic or a Planned Parenthood or whatever. You can literally just go buy this data on the open market.
So yeah,
So
this is really problematic. I'm
yeah,
glad you brought that point up because what this means is that the police, the authorities,
that's
they don't
right.
have to get warrants. They can just go buy the
Just go
data.
buy the data. Yeah.
They can literally just go buy the data. Is like I said, you have to read sometimes what is in these end user license agreements,
Mm-hmm.
to see what you're giving up and what these companies ultimately will sell. But right now, it is completely legal for the police, if they suspect you of doing something, to buy data, scrub through that data that has your location data in it, and see, were you here, were you there, did you buy this, did you search for that? They're able to
That's
purchase
right.
that data. I do believe that there is actual bipartisan legislation in Congress right now, to where they want to pass some laws that's going to stem that, to where if you are the authorities, you would still have to actually get a warrant for the data that you're looking for. But that's not a law yet. That's something that would ultimately have to get passed. So right now, you have to just be very, very careful, because it's like, if
And
you
if
decide
the
to get
police do get a warrant, most of these tech companies are not pushing back on that.
right.
There was an incident like not more than 3 months ago where some fake person impersonating police went to Facebook
Hmm.
saying, "We need this data," and they
Right.
just gave it to them.
Yeah, we
So
talked
it's
about
Oh
just
that. Yeah.
like,
wow.
yeah, it's just like, it is not hard at all to get your hands on our personal data. And the amount that these companies are collecting is just so much, and can get you down to the granularity of so much information and detail, that it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. So let's see,
Yeah.
what is it?
Even
Well, why you look? Go ahead.
text messaging back and forth with a
Mhm.
doctor, and people are saying, well, isn't that covered under under
HIPAA.
HIPAA?
HIPAA.
No, if it's a
No.
crime involved. Now, and in more than half the states, very soon, if not, probably within the next 30 days, I think it'll be 26 states within 30 days, it will be darn near illegal to have an abortion in over half the states in that country. So, this is not like something that is maybe going to happen. This is something that happened last week.
No, it's happening.
It's already happened. So the world as we know it has changed.
I'm curious as to, you've already mentioned instances where people have been brought up on charges, have been followed for their data as it relates to abortion rights and abortion laws. I'm curious, however, at how much is this going to be put in practice versus it being used as a one, what is it? What do they call that thing? A one, just one thing that Republicans can say, we got to win, so they can get their other followers to say, okay, well, we're going to make sure we vote for you in the midterms and in the the election coming up, because I don't think Biden is a shoo-in to get reelected. And my assumption is, as much pro-life as people are, and as pro-choice people are, the legislators, the people who pushed this through, were looking at this as, let's see if we can get a win so we can use this as leverage in the midterms and the upcoming.
What do you mean use
election.
what as leverage? I'm not
just following. The fact that they pushed, that they got Roe v. Wade overturned, a win for the quote unquote conservatives, so they can use that as leverage to win the midterms and possibly win the upcoming presidential election, versus actually saying, all right, now we got abortion is illegal. Now let's put in place all these things to actually convict in jail and get all these people arrested, or whatever the case may be.
That stuff is in place.
That stuff is in place. But I'm curious as to how the mouthpieces of this pro-life stuff, the senators, think of your Ted Cruz's, think of your governors in Texas, you think of people down in Florida, you think of all these places to where they've been talking at this issue, how they're going to leverage that to just get it reelected, versus saying, at the core, this is my core belief, so as a result, I'm going to legislate this to the furthest extent of the law, versus them just saying, we won, let's win the midterms, and then we'll be talking about something else.
So they've been fighting this for. Oh, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
I'm still trying to understand. Like, are you saying you don't think that all of the
I'm asking the question. I don't know.
No, that's why you're saying you don't know if all of the privacy stuff is actually going to be kind of used against us in this fight going forward, because they got the abortion thing, so they're not going to dig into the weeds of the privacy part to continue to try to like convict people.
Just all of it, not just saying.
I'm just trying to get clear on the question.
I believe they're going to use this to the fullest of their extent in every possible way that they can absolutely use it. Yeah, because they already have been. It's not like they're going to lessen up now that, well, we got this thing passed. We've been fighting for 50 years. Let's lighten up on some of this other stuff. No, that's not how they roll.
Well, the woman in 2018 who got convicted, that's what they looked at. They looked at her Google searches and the fact that she had searched for abortion pills and morning after and stuff like that. And I think also like maybe a conversation she had with somebody else. Yeah, prosecutors use Fisher's search history as evidence against her. So they're already doing all of these things that, violate our privacy, and I guess technically doesn't violate if we gave the information away, but that are digging into they're already using it. They're already doing it.
Now, Terrance, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if I'm following what you're saying, are you asking the question? Are there some Republicans who were down with this because that was getting them reelected, but they really ain't down with it?
Right.
Probably. But what's the difference?
Just asking
probably.
Yeah.
Is it possible that there's somebody who was absolutely, for their political reasons, were they against this? Yes. I believe that that's possible, but the end result is the same. This is what they voted for. This is what they stood on. So regardless of whether or not they really want, well, here's the difference. Everybody that is in Congress, this is not a problem for them. If anyone in Congress, if this was an issue for for someone in their family, to where even though I've been saying that I'm against this, but for whatever reason somebody close to me or me I need to go have one, they have the wherewithal to go get one.
Right. So
They
that's
can
kind of
literally go
so that's kind of my point. It's like it's states' rights. So is it really this is what I believe at my core beliefs? Are you making abortions illegal across the board, or are you just making abortions harder to get for those who have problems or who have to jump through extra hoops to actually get them? It's either I hate this or I just want to make it harder for everybody to get one. But
It
generally,
depends
the
on the
people,
state. It depends on
yeah,
there's
some
12
states have
states
made it
where it's
impossible to get.
completely illegal
Yeah,
under
it's
any
impossible to
circumstances.
get.
Yeah,
right.
and then some other states where there's still the rape and incest exceptions and things like that. But
So I'd
there,
be curious to see, carrying along with my point, I'd be curious to see how hard the people, let's just use Texas as an example, how hard Texas pro-life people are going to push to, say, California, as an example, to kind of push abortion, right? Not to say, of course, Texans can't push it, but convince
yeah,
Californians
I don't.
who are
No.
That
pro-life.
I don't
That's
think
what I'm
that's gonna
saying.
happen
So
either.
no,
Are
Yeah,
they
I don't think that's
really?
gonna
Are
happen.
I
you
don't think
really
they're
abortion?
stopping here. This is not the final destination. So here's what happens. It is now pushed back to the states. So the states determine whether or not and how you can or cannot have an abortion. That's where the law is right now, which it was before Roe in 73. But the proponents of we don't want anybody ever having an abortion, they're not stopping. They don't want this to happen in California. They don't want this to happen in New York. They don't want this to happen in Massachusetts. They're going to continue to fight and try to, get those states to, change, as well. That like I said, for some folks, this is my mission is to make sure that no woman in America can have an abortion. That is what their mission is.
Yeah.
Is every Republican who is pro-life, are they that diehard with it? I'm going to say not necessarily, but it doesn't matter. That's what
Right.
their party supports. That's what their
And that's what
party's
they will support as well.
ideology is.
Absolutely.
So that's what they support, because in their mind, well, it doesn't really affect me. I mean, and that's a problem with politics. It's been like this since politicians have been politicians.
All
What's
right.
good for you is not necessarily what's good for me.
All right, we're gonna put a pin in that. We're gonna go back to some tech because there's some other things you can do. You want to turn off your Find My services when you're near, or if you know you're leaving your house to go to a clinic, to go to a Planned Parenthood, turn off your Find My services, turn off your location data on your phone, so that they cannot track that. If you are using a period app, I would just recommend not doing that. I know some people really need to keep track of that for endometriosis purposes and other type of purposes. But if you have to use a period tracking app, Yuki, EUKI, that's the name of the app, has promised not to sell your data, to only collect the absolute bare minimum amount of data that they need to for you to use the app at all, and to not hand over your data to law enforcement. I'm not sure how they think they're gonna get away with that, but
And
Yuki
do
is
they
Yuki would
encrypt?
be,
Do they
I
encrypt as
think they
well?
do. I think they
I
do
think they
encrypt
encrypt
your
it as
data as
well.
well. Yeah. So Yuki would be the period tracker app that you should probably be looking at if you have to use an app. I would say pencil and paper at this point. Signal and Telegram, of course, if you're texting, those offer end-to-end encryption messaging apps. So to make sure that you don't get that. Images, make sure you remove them. If you took a picture of something just to keep it, at top of mind or something, make sure you're deleting them, and make sure you're emptying out your recently deleted folder as well, because they have that little folder at the bottom that they keep them pictures in for like 30 days that nobody thinks about. What else did I write down? Oh, and a separate email as well. If you're emailing for information, Proton Mail and
Mhm.
Tuta Nota are noted for being encrypted and super secure and private. So we just gonna have to buckle down
Yeah.
and really like figure out how we can protect our digital footprints as best we can at this point. This is so sad. It's
So
so sad.
I actually, like I said, this is all over all social media. Everybody's talking about it. And I was just looking at, actually people, in a group chat that, some family members, some friends, but it's just a big group chat, 60, 70 folks in there. And we're talking about this. And one of the things that was said was, so this is kind of like being in, we got to treat our data like we are in China. Mainland China, or we're like in
Somewhere.
Afghanistan, or in Pakistan, or yeah, that is what you now
Honestly.
have to do, because
Honestly.
um, don't get hemmed up because you believe that, oh, they're not going to really go after people. No, they've already been going after people.
They've been
They've
doing it.
already done this, prison time.
And they're just looking for a reason.
Yeah.
And because this data is so readily available, again, somebody spent $160 and got every person who was near a Planned Parenthood at a specific time, like literally every person that was in that vicinity, whether they were actually going into the clinic or not, they were
Mhm.
able to buy that data for $160. So it's just like, our data is not safe. Our data is not safe right now.
No, we've been talking about keeping your data safe for the entirety of this show, but just the three of us, in general, for years, for decades, we keep your data safe. Stephanie, this is one of the things that you do. I mean, this is what you
For
do.
a living. Exactly.
This is what you do. But I hate that it is something that is so disruptive to half of the people who live here,
Yeah.
over half the people who live here.
Yeah.
But you've got to now start thinking about your data, because, like I said, if you are researching this stuff and the police can find it, and you live in one of these draconian states where they literally are coming after you, they're coming after you. They've already done it. So don't assume that it's not going to happen to you. You've got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself.
And I honestly believe the tech companies are going to whiff on this. There's a couple of a senator and a representative in Congress right now who are trying to get them to agree to like only collect information you need and kind of just ease up on the data collection in general. I feel like the states that have these laws are going to put some other laws in place that say, tech companies can't do X, Y, and Z, or they have to provide X, Y, and Z. And just like they do in instances where like Europe cracks down and everybody now has to be cracked down on because they don't feel like picking and choosing where they crack down, they're going to do that here as well. And if 12 or 15 or 25 states decide to crack down, everybody's getting cracked down on. So I really feel like the tech companies don't have the balls really to
Really say
go
no.
against, to really say no. I don't think so. So we
Mhm.
all gonna be suffering.
Right. So, with that was a heck of a discussion. I hate that
Yeah.
we're having to have it, but it's a discussion that has to be had.